Okay. All right, Victor, you're there. I don't know if anyone else, I hope I'm in the right place. This is the right place, right, Victor?
That's the link you sent us, Rabbi.
Yeah, hello, yeah? What do you say, Victor? We're in the right place?
Yep.
Victor,
Yeah,
I can't see you. Are you hiding?
This was the link you sent us.
I can't see you. Are you hiding, Victor?
Yeah, kinda. Yeah.
What, you let your hair down?
No, not particularly.
Preparing live stream the meeting, okay?
All right.
I hit that thing. I don't know why it's going, never happened this before. It says setting up your meeting for custom streaming service. Oh, it's the first time I did that. I don't know why it took so long, but okay, now it's sending me to Facebook for some reason.
Yep, you're streaming on Facebook now, Rabbi.
On Facebook too? Okay.
Yes.
And I'll get back to Zoom.
We're here.
Okay, you guys are here. Where are you? I'm going to find you 1 second. Let me see. My Zoom. Hold on. Okay, who's we? Is that the Thurlows?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I am going to, since I don't see people, I'm going to hide. Oh, I yell it. I'm going to press the button. There's a button here to hide everyone who doesn't show their faces. How do I do that? Victor, there's a button like that, right? I saw that once. You see how to do that? The way to do that, to hide anyone that I can't see, because it's very difficult to speak to boxes. Ayala, you're also, oh, Ayala's there. All right, somebody's showing their face. All right, Victor, how do I do this? There's a line here, how you could view stream, no? Okay, 1 second.
Let me Google that up.
Yeah, you're here, yay. Ali, you gonna show your face? Yay.
Give me a second, but yeah, I'll turn my camera on.
All right, good. All right.
Okay.
Hold on. Why? There's a way I saw before how to get. Okay. All right, good. Where am I?
Aaliyah, you're gonna turn your camera on, and the Thurlows and Victor can turn his camera on. You're on Facebook Live.
Okay, I'm gonna.
Give me a second, but yeah, I'll turn my camera on.
All right, good. All right.
Okay.
Hold on. Why? There's a way I saw before. All right, guys. One more second, and we're gonna figure out how to do all of this amazing technology here. See, Schiffer's here. That's great.
You're gonna turn your camera on, and the Thurlows and Victor can turn his camera on.
1 second. Hi, Giovanna. Okay, Shmuel's here. The team is gathering. All right. Let's see. Okay. Guys, one more second, and we're gonna figure out how to do. One more second, Chavra. We're trying to figure a few things out here. Okay. Oh, Aaliyah's here. There you go. All right. Participants. Okay. All right. Whoever's willing to show their.
Okay, Rabbi.
Yeah, you see how to do it? Yeah.
I think you have to right-click on any participant that either has their video off or dialed in via telephone.
Okay.
And then there's going to be a menu. You have to choose hide non-video participants.
There's a way to make it so on Facebook you're seeing just me, you're seeing everybody.
That's a good question. Let me check that.
I think we're seeing everyone on Facebook. There's a way just to see me on Facebook. I mean, actually, I want to see everybody here, but there's a way to just see me on Facebook. All right, we're almost there, guys. Very exciting. Modern technology at its finest. Okay. Victor, you see a way to do that? All right. I don't really see a way to do that, but all right, let us begin. How's everyone doing first? You all
Good.
doing good?
Great.
You're all muted.
Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem.
Okay, very good. Let us begin. Okay, guys, so what we're talking about today is we are in the wonderful world of personality traits, midot traits. Now, we said many times that what is the word trait in Hebrew? The word trait in Hebrew is not trait, it's a midah. A midah means a measurement. Why is that? Because every emotion and every expression that you have can be used for positive or negative. You just need to know, we all need to know what measurement to put them in, okay? So for example, let's say I say a person is very stingy. Well, is it bad being stingy? Yeah, when it's time for, giving to people, it's a bad thing. But if somebody comes to you and says, hey, listen, give me some money, I want to buy some drugs, and you say, no, I'm not going to give you, that's a good use of the trait of stinginess. It's true for every single trait. A person, let's say, is passionate, okay? Is that good? Yeah, he's passionate about doing things. When it's time to be thoughtful and sit back and analyze things with your brain and not to have that fire being passionate, then it's a bad trait. So it has a good expression and a not good expression. All traits do. That's why they're called midot. They're called measurements. They are called usable for everyone in some way or another, and you need to know how to use it. Now, Maimonides comes out that that basically all traits have an extreme, and you should go for the middle path. Go for the middle path. There are two exceptions. There are two exceptions, Maimonides says, where you don't go for the middle path. You must go further afield, possibly to an extreme. What are those two exceptions? Anger. He says, don't get angry. He says, even on big things, don't get angry. And the second thing he says is haughtiness. Those two, he doesn't like the middle path. Now, that's a little bit strange. I need to explain that. Why? Because there is seemingly a place, for example, let's say a person doesn't get angry at injustice. That's not good. The verse says, those who love God hate evil. They don't say, it's all right. You know what? I don't really care. If you don't care, then you become complicit with it. So if a person doesn't get angry when they see someone doing something terrible, then how is that okay? So what does Maimonides mean? You shouldn't be angry. You should be sort of more extreme and don't get angry, even at big things. So we're going to explain tonight a little bit the trait of anger. And when I get to it, I'll also deal a little bit with why there's such a hesitation on anger, that seems to be a no-no, a real area that you don't want to play around with, as well as haughtiness. Aaliyah, did you like the high vocabulary that said a no-no? That's pretty good, right? It was very, very, very.
I work with a 5-year-old autistic boy, so I'm always like, that's a good choice or that's a bad choice. So you said that's a no-no, and I say that. So
I was trying to show my very rich vocabulary there by saying it's a no-no. Okay.
I mean, we understand. So
yeah. Okay.
I understand.
So now, let me explain what we have to understand about anger. And once we understand this, it'll hopefully help us to understand why we got to be careful and what Maimonides means. Is there a middle path for anger or not? What does he mean? Okay. There is a verse that says, there's a teaching in the Talmud. It says like this. It says, whoever gets angry, it's like they worship idols. Okay, kola koes, whoever gets angry, it's as if they worship idolatry. Now, why is that? Why is that? It doesn't say, I don't know, whoever is desirous and king. That's like the idolatry. It doesn't say that. But who is angry is an angry person. It's like he commits idolatry. Every time he gets angry, it's like a form of idolatry. You know why? Why is that? Well, there's a simple reason that people explain, which is, as you know, we like to all claim we've never gotten angry, but let's assume we've gotten angry once or twice. Those who people get angry realize that when they're angry, they're out of control. And there's a certain place in people's minds where they're a little bit crazy. They can go off the deep end. And the first level of the teaching means is that when you feel that you are out of control, you could do the worst things in the world because you're possessed. It's like, you know, it's what those old movies was. That movie was called Carrie. I forget the movie name. She spins her head around, or Exorcist, whatever it was. These crazy movies. You're possessed. When a person gets angry, they realize that there's something going on, and as they feed the anger, they can't stop. So the simple explanation is anger is tantamount to idolatry, because what's going to happen is that the anger itself will lead to a place of completely out of control. And that could be the worst thing in the world, even the craziest thing, as being idolatrous and bowing down to whatever forces that people could do that. That could happen because this person is not a human being anymore. They're crazy, right? Okay, that's the simple explanation. But I want to. We have some people watching in Facebook land. I'm good to see you guys. I'm not able to pull you up yet on Facebook, but hopefully I will, as Victor and I work through the kinks of our new multi-streaming. Okay, so if you have a question on Facebook, I'm sorry, I'm not going to see it now. I might be able to look at the end, but we're at a different time. We're actually a few seconds before you. So, okay, now, the second explanation of why anger is like worshiping idols is very important to understand. Let's understand a second. Why do we get angry in general? What? Think about all the times you got angry. What was the cause? The cause is always the same. I have a certain way I think things should be. Things should be this way. And now this person is thwarting my efforts, my desires, my goals. I have my plan, this is what it should be, and they're doing something else. And they're getting in my way. They're stopping what I believe that I should be doing. And therefore I get angry. What do you mean? You're like, you didn't do this to me. You didn't invite me to the wedding. How could you do that? Because I think that I should go to the wedding. You didn't invite me. And wow, a cat just walked. So that's the root of anger. Anger is that you feel your desires are being blocked by someone or something, and you're out of control, and you want to just smash and break the thing that's blocking you. That's what anger is. You're stopping my intent, what I think should be. Okay. Now I want you to think about that. Now that seems to be fair. That's why I get angry. This person, they, insulted me. I mean, I feel that I'm a wonderful person, and now they're giving me a different vision of the world. I have to overcome that and shut it down. It seems to be sort of a justified reason to get angry, because if I was like really in control, I could say, "Sir, don't do that." Let's say I'm the king, and you're in my way. We're driving down the road, and you're stopping, and you're gonna block me. So if I'm the king, I say, okay, you get this guy, throw him out, and I know I'm in control. But when you feel you're not in control, you start yelling and screaming, get out of my way, get out of my way, because they're blocking your world of control. You want to be in control, and now you're not. So it's justified in a certain sense. Now, where is it not justified? If we use the meta model of the way the world really is, then we'll understand the great problem with anger. Let's try to understand this a second. I give this example a lot. Hi, Sandy, good to see you. Imagine you woke up in the morning and you were going out the door, and as you're going out the door, there's a note on your door. It says you're going to go into the car won't start. You're going to end up going to work late. Your boss is going to yell at you. On the way into work, you're going to slip, fall down, and get your brand new clothes all dirty. And all of this is a test to see how you will react. Love God. Now, if you read that note, and you walked out the door and you put the keys in the car and you try to start the car, and the car didn't start, what would you do? Would you darn it? Say, no, wait a minute. This was going to happen. And it's not about getting the car. It's a question of how I'm going to respond to this. I guarantee you everything that happened, you would actually feel great. You go, oh, I got this one. I know exactly why this is happening. This is a test. Am I going to lose it? Am I going to get uptight? Because that's the way you would experience it. This is not the purpose to freak out. There's a plan here. And in the plan, I come late and I get my clothes dirty, whatever. I don't know the reason, but there's a reason because I got to know. It was signed, love God. Every time you go and you would do something, you wouldn't get angry because you'd say, oh, wait a minute. There is some kind of plan. Not sure I know exactly the details of why, but some kind of plan, and I'm part of the plan. And my role in the plan is how I deal with these challenges. There'd be no anger. You would never get angry. So why do we get angry? Because when something happens to us, in our view, that's not the way it should be. I know better. So for whatever reason, in the cosmic scheme of things, this is happening to me. My car is stalled, and that should not be. And I'm angry. That's why it's like worshiping idols. Because what it really is saying is, there is no source in control of this world. That's what it is. What is idolatry? Idolatry is not like these idiots who are bowing down to statues. Idolatry is being caught up in forces of the world. That's what idolatry is. Idolatry is there's a force, and I need a powerful counter force to beat it. That's what idolatry is. And so I'm going to manipulate my idolatry to get my force to do what I want. That's what idolaters believed. The idea of one source, one omnipotent source, means that there are no other powers in the world. Whoa, that's a whole new view of the world. That means that when I feel my will is being thwarted and I am being repressed, if I could take a step back and say, wait a minute, since there are not individual forces in this world that have control, there must be that this is part of some plan. I won't get angry. As a matter of fact, I will be able to take it potentially, if I do this right, with actual joy. Because I'll say, like the example we gave before of the guy who gets the note on the wall on the door, that, okay, this is all potential challenges. I want you to understand something that's so amazing and we don't realize. Every human being has their challenges. The challenges that you go through, we all go through on a daily basis, on a momentary, of a minute-to-minute basis, are all perfectly tailored to what we need to do. They're not accidents. There's no accidents. They're not accidents. If you believe that there's a world of randomness, okay, there's a world of randomness. If you believe there's a world of separate forces like idolatrous things, and this force is fighting that force, and there's no unity in terms of the world, then you believe I'm a victim of the forces. My boss is pulling me this way. This guy's pulling me that way. But if you believe there's one source to all existence, then you have to realize that the things that are happening to you are not accidental. They're meant exactly for you, and there's absolutely no reason to be angry. That's the deeper meaning of the teaching. That someone gets angry, it's like they worship idols, because the trait of losing control because my will is being blocked means that I don't realize that there is a higher will in this world, and I am part of that. You don't realize that. That's what it means. That is a very deep understanding in what the source of anger is, and it's very, very, very crucial to understand that. Okay? Now, so what is it? What should a person do? What do we do? Well, I say like this. Anger, we talked about this once before. We talked about fire and water, about wind, air and earth, different elements in the world. Fire is where anger comes from. Fire is where anger comes from. Now, yeah, you could fix it by a little water, by doing some meditation, by relaxing, by breathing. But I want to show you a deeper way to take care of the fire of anger through fire itself. How is that? When a person goes and gets a fire and starts to realize that there's a source in the world, and realize this teaching, every test that happens is tailor-made for you. There are no accidents. You are part of a greater plan, and you get the fire to feel that. When something happens to you in the world, anger is not going to be your response. Your response is, oh, wait a minute. This is something for me to take and to grow. It's my opportunity. Now, therefore, that's one of the explanations of what the Rambam means, Maimonides means, when he says a person shouldn't get angry. Because anger, in the sense of fighting against God's will and realizing that you think you have your own separate independent world, is always a bad thing to do. I was going to say no, but I stopped. It's always an extremely negative thing to do. It's deleterious. It's obnoxious. I'll try to get some polysyllabic words here for you. Ali, hold on one second. So what happens is that is always a problem. But to have a response to something, not to be like a dead person, that you're supposed to. So when a person feels that this is wrong, and my obligation now is to stand up and say this thing is wrong, then they do. That's not the same thing. That's not even called anger anymore. Anger, in the way we defined it, means that I am against the force that's trying to take me in a different way. That's what anger means. So don't get angry, but don't be lackadaisical either. Make a decision. If something has to be fought for, then I fight for it. And that's really true. If a person goes and they have something that's true and they don't realize it, they don't say anything about it, they will become swept away in whatever thing the world's telling them. So a person has to go. Now, that being said, I want to say one other thing. But when you get angry, even at good things, it's dangerous. Here's the problem. That even when you get angry at the right things, this person is doing the wrong thing, I got to stand up. It's dangerous. Because anger makes a person lose their sense of reality and they end up doing terrible things. And that's why in halacha, in Jewish law, the reality is it says that it talks about a teacher who has to get angry at his student to go and to have him change. And they had a story there of a great sage. His name was Yisrael Salanter. He was teaching a whole group of students, and he started yelling at one of the students. It was a big room, and there was one student who was sitting very close to where he was. And he heard Rabbi Yisrael Salanter as he was yelling at the other student, and he heard him yell, and then whisper under his breath, remember, you're only pretending. You're only pretending. You're not really angry. That's what he had to do. Why? Because even though he knew it was a place to use this in the good trait, and it's not the anger that you're resisting what you're supposed to be doing, but he knew that since anger takes this control of a person, who knows where it's going to lead? And therefore, even when a person uses anger properly, Maimonides says it can't be out of a place of anger, really, where you don't realize you're fighting against the system, but you're working within it. Right now, you don't have to be angry at the people doing bad things because you got to stop it. But you have to be careful then, because even then, there's a chance to go off the deep end. There's a chance where a person can go and actually become a negative person. And that's the famous story of in the Torah, it says where Moses fixed up the problem of anger. It says he had to fight against the Midianites, and it was like the last stand. It was like before he died, he was going to fight against the Midianites, and it was a hard thing because he had to avenge what they did wrong because they desecrated God's name. But he couldn't lose himself in that, and he did it properly. So we have to be careful again. The root of anger is my plan is being blocked, and therefore I want to break out. The reality is, if you take a step back and you realize that you're part of this plan, and there's one source that's directing this plan, then you don't get angry. You say, oh, okay, this is my opportunity to take this and to grow with it. And sometimes you have to say, well, this is at a time where it is within the right thing to do to be angry. But even then, you got to be careful. Okay, this is the point I want to understand. Now, to deal with this, though, this needs training. Okay, we have to do things to slowly control anger. The first step is going to be obviously where a person he feels it, but they don't bring it out. So there's techniques. I'm not going to get into techniques in the world. There's techniques, breathing techniques and thinking techniques and ways to hold it back. But whatever you do to contain it, you got to realize if you don't do the deeper step that I'm teaching you today, then it's going to come out at some point. If you don't at some point say, oh, wait a minute, why is this happening? What should I learn from this? What should I do from this? I don't dictate what my tests are. These are my challenges for a reason. If you don't come to that and you just try to shut it down, at some point it bursts out. Let me give you a very important analogy here of a law. This is actually a halacha, it's a law, and it's one of the strangest laws. It's an absolutely strange law. But if you understand this, you'll understand what we just talked about anger. So there's a law as follows. It says you're not allowed to take revenge and not allowed to bear a grudge. Okay. Now, taking revenge, I could say, okay, you're just a bad guy. So the case in the Talmud is the guy comes along and you ask him to borrow his hammer. And he says no. And then a week later he says, hey, can I borrow your shovel? And you say no. Why'd you say no? Because you didn't give me, I'm not going to give you. Okay. The law is to become a holy spiritual person. It says in the Torah, you should give them your hammer. Unless they have a reason why you don't, because they're going to break you, whatever. But if you're doing it because they didn't give you the hammer or the shovel, whatever it is, and you're not going to take revenge, that is actually one of the commandments that you cannot do. It's forbidden. That kind of makes sense. I can understand you're an elevated person. But there's another law that says if you came to them and said, can I borrow a hammer? And they said no. And they came to you a week later and they said, can I borrow your shovel? You said, yeah, you could borrow it. Because I'm not like you. I'm not like you. I share. I'm a good boy, right? Aaliyah, it's like no, good. I share my toys nicely. You say that, or you even think that, you have messed it up entirely, because that is called bearing a grudge. So, I mean, this law is so bizarre. It means that I give him a shovel, I don't even say anything, and I think in my head, yeah, what a nerve. What a nerve, he comes after the shovel. Yeah. And you bear the grudge inside, that is also considered to be a negative thing. It's a transgression. It's normal. It's normal human response. So normal. How do you explain it? So one of the great sages, the Sefer Chinuch, explains the following. It's like this. He says, you're supposed to think for like this. There's a grand plan in the world, okay? And people can choose to be good players or bad players. That's their choice, okay? People that want to be good messengers can be good messengers. People that want to be bad messengers can be bad messengers. But there is a plan here. And therefore, if you didn't get the hammer last week when you asked the guy, there was a deeper reason why you weren't meant to get that hammer. Now, that person may be a bad messenger because they chose not to give you the hammer, but you weren't meant to get the hammer for whatever reason. Maybe you learned your lesson. You remember the one time you didn't give someone else a hammer. Maybe because, I don't know, maybe you're going to hurt your finger. I don't know. There are a lot of reasons why you weren't meant to get that hammer, but you weren't. And what happens in relationships is we view the person who is in our way as the source of our problem. And we got to take them out. He wouldn't give me the hammer. But that's not the truth. It looks like the truth, but it's not. The truth is, you were not supposed to get a hammer for whatever reason at this moment. You could try and get one the next day. I don't know. But this money was supposed to get a hammer. This person was willing to be the bad messenger to give you the news. And therefore, they're like a pawn in a giant play. They chose to be a bad pawn. I understand that. But that's not the cause. And when a person believes that that's the cause, it changes the world, because we get stuck into the world of powers, forces, randomness, and that is the source of anger. The source of anger is because these things are in my way. No. Here's the deep spiritual truth. There's one will in this world, and it's directed perfectly towards you. And you are functioning within that reality. And when something happens, it's something to learn from. You don't live in Disneyland. You shouldn't be a Pollyanna and say, well, okay, it's fine. It's something, but it's not because this person doesn't give you the hammer. I always give the analogy, it's like a person takes a stick, and they throw it at a dog. So what does a dumb dog do? The dumb dog bites the stick. But the stick was only the stick, because the guy threw the stick. Who threw the stick at you? That's the one source. That's God. He threw a stick at you. So listen, you're not having a hammer now. Why not? Hey, don't get angry. If you get angry, it means you're denying that there is a source to this. And it's like worshiping idols. No, there's a reason you didn't get the hammer now. Take a deep breath. Why didn't I get the hammer? I don't know. This person maybe not a nice player, but you know what? It's not my problem. It's their problem. It's like the old pop psychology thing. I don't own this problem. You don't own that problem. You really don't. It's an amazing way to look at the world. You don't own the problem. When someone does something negative against you, you don't own that problem. That's their problem. What you own is the fact that there was a reason why this happened to you. The fact that they were the players to bring that about. That's really their issue, not your issue. And that's the whole story with Yosef. amazing story with Joseph when he's sold into slavery by his brothers. At the end, his brothers come back and Joseph becomes the king of Egypt, and then the brothers come back and this whole reunion, and then the brothers are nervous at a certain point that Joseph is going to go and harm them. So they say, listen, we're so sorry what we did and blah, blah, blah. And Joseph says, listen, he gives them a very strange answer. He doesn't say to them, it's okay, no problem. He doesn't say that. He said, am I instead of God? You thought for bad, and God thought it for good. He made me the king of Egypt, and I was able to save us all, and blah, blah, blah. It wasn't very comforting. It wasn't like he said, yeah, it's okay, guys. You love me, I love you too. He didn't say that. He said, what am I instead of God? He says, you thought it for bad, but God thought it for good. What was he saying? What he was saying was that this is not my issue with you. There was a reason why I was going to get sold to slavery, a reason why I had to come to Egypt, and there was a whole reason for it. And you guys, unfortunately, you thought it for bad. You were negative players in this scenario. And it's a shame that you had to be that way. That's not my problem. It's your problem. And I wish you good luck in working it out. That's the vision that we have to have. And that's the way to get rid of anger. Every other method is good: to control, to think, to meditate, to breathe, count to 10, whatever tricks of the trade you want to use to close your mouth and practice to close your mouth and practice to say it. And these are all good techniques, and they're all good things to start the process. But the only thing that's really at the root of this is to understand that if there is a source to everything, and there are no accidents, and the challenges you have are appropriate to you, nobody is blocking what you want to achieve. The pieces are being put in place specifically that you could achieve what you have to do. And why should you get angry then? You should be happy. Hard when things are difficult, but really freeing when we can realize it. Okay, that's my thought. I'm going to open up to anyone any questions. We will open it up to questions.
All right, I have a question.
Okay.
Of course.
I wouldn't think less, Ayala.
I thought that we weren't held accountable on our thoughts. If it's a thought, but it doesn't come to an action, I mean, we can't, most of the time, we can't control our thoughts. And if we can, it comes after a lot of, learning, a lot of restraining process.
Well, thoughts that you're not held accountable for are things that float into your head. If you, because that just floats into your head. If you maintain negative thoughts, it's a low level, it's a problem. But hatred, it says, it says, don't hate your friend in your heart. So hatred that a person has for somebody, it is definitely one of the 13 commandments. Yeah, you can't have hatred for somebody, and you can't, you have to rebuke them. Now, some people learn the idea that rebuking them takes care of the problem because you tell them what they did wrong. And by the way, this is something that, in the South, I don't think they got the memo on this one. But the bless your heart kind of thing, that does not fit in line with the Torah. You can't be like, I'm angry at someone, I'm really upset, but I say bless their heart instead of saying drop dead, but it really means drop dead. I say bless your heart. No, you have to actually go and tell them, listen, you could figure it out to let it go, or you can go and say, listen, this is what you did wrong to me, and give them the opportunity to fix up what they did wrong. But you can't go and say, well, I'm not going to say anything, I'm angry. So, although the thoughts that float in our minds, that's what we're not held accountable for. But if a person feels hatred, it's a feeling. And that he has to overcome. The person feels, a grudge against someone, it feels hatred against someone. That's something that a human being has to overcome. And it's not easy. Yeah. Not easy. But we have to do it. Again, very low, it's a high level, but that's the level that's expected from us, that we can get there. We're able to go and to get to that state.
Well, basically, if you can master the thought that you are being tested all the time and there's only one king in this world that controls everything, isn't that the answer for most midot? Anger, gava, jealousy, all of this midot if you understand that this is the test, this is the world.
There's different qualities, and so I was going to tie this back to haughtiness. That's why the two haughtiness and anger are the ones that Maimonides says because they really have the same idea. It's the idea that I'm God. That's what it is. Haughtiness means I have my own. I'm in charge, and I'm not subjugated to any other force. And anger is a result of that. Once you know that you feel that you're in charge, you dictate, you get angry. But that's not necessarily the mindset for all traits. So, for example, for the trait of jealousy, I wouldn't recommend that. I would say for jealousy, I would say you have to understand that what you have is what is good for you. And anything that you don't have is not good for you. It means that you're your own person. So yeah, on a certain sense, to realize a oneness of God is the root of everything, but it comes out in different ways. In anger and in haughtiness, it comes out in breaking away from realizing the source. In other traits, it has different qualities. Like I say, jealousy, it requires a little different statement. It does come to the idea that God gives you what you need, but the idea that the way you take care of jealousy is to take the premise that we say that every individual gets what they need and no one can get whatever is meant for you because it wouldn't be good for them, and what someone else has is not good for you. It's a little different. All right. Good. Any other questions, thoughts, comments?
Yes, Rabbi, I have a question. The analogy you used of the person with the hammer and the other person asked to borrow it. And if the person who owns the hammer is a pawn, I believe I heard you use the phrase a pawn, then what happened to his free choice to lend the hammer or not? If he's, when I hear the word pawn, I think of something that's being moved around.
Right.
At the will of another force.
Okay, good question. So I don't mean it in that way, but I do want to actually. I'm going to push again. In my book, I go through some detail. So I mention that, and so I have a whole chat to explain the question you're asking me because it's a very, very good question. But there's an idea that one of the things that God does in the world is connect people who decide to do something with the situation. So in other words, the person who is a negative person, who is not the guy who is going to lend you the hammer, that's his trait, and that's what he has decided to do, if you're not supposed to get the hammer, you will be on the same street as that guy and asking that guy.
Okay.
So he has chosen it, but God has moved the reality that he's the person that you're asking as opposed to somebody else.
Okay.
So that way, it's one of the ways. It's a very deep question. There's a lot of different parts to it, but that's one of the ways that people make their free will choices. But you don't just randomly, because if you're not supposed to get the hammer now, you're not going to run into the good guy who's willing to give it. You're going to run to the guy who's the bad guy who's not willing to give it. He's chosen not to give it. But since you're not supposed to get it, you end up going to him.
Okay.
And that's the way, one of the ways, I mean, obviously it's very, very deep, but one way God moves the world, that he sets it up that and that's one of the teachings that God, he makes what's called shidduchim. He always brings things together. So if a person, let's say, has to give someone money, and the guy might lose it, and someone else might find it. These are all things we don't even know how they happen in the grand scheme because they're infinitely complex. But I don't mean a pawn like he's being manipulated, but I mean he's chosen to be the bad messenger. He is now the one that you asked for whatever reasons. That's the person you have accessible to you. And he's the bad messenger. He's chosen to be that person, but you weren't going to get the hammer anyway.
Well, you remind me of something that I read or heard in a commentary, that Hashem will not use a righteous person to do a negative thing. And that's kind of what I'm kind of hearing you say there, if I'm understanding you correct.
Right. That's the verse says, Mishar Misaresha. from negative people, negative things come out. And that's one of the explanations, is that they've decided negatively, or positive people decide positive things, and therefore they are the messengers to bring out positive things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Very good. Okay. Any other questions?
Yes, if anger is an angle of anger means that you are angry that things are not going your way or the way that you want them. Is frustration is the same, because that's the same motives, isn't it? So frustration is the same as anger. If you're frustrated that somebody doesn't do what you want.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's the same meter. Yeah. Yeah, I think just two words in English, but I think they're all. Yeah, I'm not angry. I'm just frustrated. That's what people say all the time. I'm not angry at you. I'm just frustrated. Okay, you can go to what call, but you're angry. So yeah, so I think it's the same thing.
I have to say something.
Yeah.
I want to say something. I think, anger, it's like part of our life, and the same way that we're growing up with different things, anger is one of the things that we need to learn to grow up with and deal with that. It's not about the environment, it's about us. So it's the way that we treating the anger, the way we dealing with the anger.
Right.
I think, I can speak for myself, when I was younger, I got anger for many things around me. And it's even worse with me because I didn't took it out, I didn't know how to take it out. So I keep it inside.
Right.
Over the years I learned, as much as you keep it inside, you actually punish yourself. You're hurting yourself. So I treat myself to let the things go and just to accept that. Right. And believe this is the God, actually God put us on situation and he actually testing us.
Right. Exactly right. And that's why, like, the first step is you gotta bolem it. You gotta hold back and not give free rein. That's the first step.
It takes a lot of energy, a lot of effort.
A lot of energy, and the reality is that if you don't do the next step, it backfires. Because when you take it in, at a certain point, you're gonna let it out, and you're gonna let it out when you least expect it. It's going to be like, and that's what people are like, why are you freaking out now? What happened? It was nothing, but they don't know that this has been building up for the past, year. Now, again, there are natural things you should do, which is to talk to people. If someone's doing something in your world, then you have to say, you don't have to be like a total, there's areas where you focus on your own self, but then there are areas of relationship. So right now you're doing something that upsets me. Before you freak out and you express to the person and do it with all of the techniques, you say, I just want to tell you, I feel upset when this and this happens. Okay, that's a very simple technique, because when you tell a person, you keep doing this, then you know how that goes. It doesn't go too well, right? You keep insulting me. So that doesn't go. I did not. What you say instead, I just want to tell you, I personally, I feel insulted when you. I know you don't mean it, but when you call me a moron, I don't know. I'm a sensitive person. It upsets me. So when I say that, so I haven't attacked them, but I'm saying what it is that now you should do that, because even though what I taught you tonight is the idea of how you rise above the fray of a problem, but when you have a person that you're in a relationship with, you want to communicate with them what the issue is, so they'll fix it. And if they're not going to, it's not a relationship. And then it's the guy who won't lend you his hammer, and then you have to like get outside of it. So the technique I said today is like, when somebody is negative to you, then how you don't get into the dance with them. But when you have the ability to communicate with them, then you should. And you should do it before you get angry, because if you do when you're angry, they won't hear a word you're saying. Yeah. Beautiful. Actually. Okay. All right, everybody. Anything else? Does the cat have a question, Leah?
Ayelet? Any questions?
This is my cat that you have asked about a few times.
It's a very interesting cat because it keeps smacking you in the face with his tail. And it's
I know,
like,
yeah, she's just really interesting when you have to say. I did have like a comment. It kind of like kept popping up. I've learned a lot about anger, and one thing that like really stuck out to me when I was like learning about it more was that when you feel anger, it's because you're giving your power away to something else. And you kept saying that like you feel angry because things aren't going your way, which is control. So like if something's making you that upset, like why? That's exactly it. That is making you that upset. So to me, like I try not to get angry, not to say that I'm perfect or that I don't, but I just don't want to give my power away.
right. That's right. That's right. That's why it's worshiping idols. That's why you're worshiping the power. Now you're saying is, and as I said to you before, there's different ways that anger happens, but it means that when a person feels angry, they're out of control, and they feel that either the world is knocking them out, or this person's knocking them out, and so what I added to what you're saying, which is very good. The thing that you're saying, it comes from a good observation of the world. But when you put the deeper idea of understanding God in the calculation, then it's more than just I don't want to let them shake me. I realize, whoa, there really is a purpose, and it's not just don't knock me out. It's like, okay, this is purposeful. There's really no reason to get angry because this is meant for me. It's a love note. It's something for me. The guy didn't give me the hammer. I say, yeah, awesome. For some reason, I'm not supposed to have a hammer now. That's amazing. I don't know why. It upsets. I really wanted a hammer. I thought I was going to go and build my deck right now, and I can't do it. All right, so I'll go sit and learn Torah. Whatever. I don't know what conclusion you make, but you make some conclusion from it. You see what I'm saying? It's like it's what you're saying, but it adds the idea more than just like I'm not going to give my power away and let them control me. I'm going to say, wait a minute. There is a power, and I am in a relationship with that, and this situation is really meant for give me the opportunity to deal properly, to make myself better.
Well, you mentioned something earlier that I can't remember exactly how you said that everything that happened to us is tailored to us, and the best reaction will be to accept it with love and even joy, right?
Yeah.
So in the spirit of to bless on the bad as the same way like you bless on the good. So if that's true, that means that if we accept everything in joy and love and happiness and yay, it happened to me, no matter what it is, then we actually don't have isurim, we don't have suffering. And if isurim are cleaning the soul, then are we getting cleaned in this world?
Well, let me qualify that a second, because when something hard happens, I'm half joking when I say the guy says yay, because something that's hard is hard, and we're not obligated to go and we should not live in fantasy land where when things are challenging, then we just kind of play it like we're in fantasy land. Oh, this is great. No, this hurts right now, and this is painful. This is not good. But there's a certain mitigation of the pain because you realize that there's something greater at play right now. We don't have a God forbid, we don't have a law. If somebody passes away, we don't say, oh, this is yay, wonderful. God forbid, we don't say it. We say God's a true judge, meaning right now this is painful. I don't know why. I don't know. I can't make sense. It just hurts. At the same time, I know that there is a giant plan here that is unfolding, and I don't see it, and this feels like pain right now, but eventually I'll experience things differently. That's very different than a person saying, I'm not going to relate to the negative feeling, because then the person ends up deluding themselves. So when something bad happens, you don't have to say, "Yay, you're not getting hammered." You know, if it's an easy thing, say, "Okay, I'm not getting hammered. Great, I'll go do something else." You know. But if it's something hard, then it says, "Okay, this hurts. I wish this wasn't it, but you know what? There's some way that this is for a purpose right now, and I'm not going to get angry. I'm not going to get overly distraught. I could feel my feelings that you should do, and you're supposed to do, but the negative feeling is always tempered. It's tempered by the fact that, you know, it's like, I say to my wife, you know, if sometimes she stubs her toe and she's screaming, I'm like, wait a minute, I don't understand. You had 7 kids without any anesthesia. Does this hurt more than that? You know? And the answer is, of course not. What happened? But on the having the kids was like, okay, well, this was a painful thing for a purpose. You stub your toe, you're like, what the heck is? We scream when we stub our toes because it's like the stupidest thing. There's like no reason for it, and it's just so frustrating. So when you stub your toe, if you felt like, wow, this is something, like you said, if you felt like, and it's true, by the way, if you stub your toe, and this is a good exercise for next time you stub your toe. When you stub your toe, it is actually fixing up something negative you did. That happens to be true. The Talmud says if somebody goes and sticks their hand in their pocket, they think they have 3 coins, they only have 2, then that is also fixing up something that was negative. So that means even the little annoyances throughout our day are in some way fixing up something negative we created with a little annoyance. So if you stub your toe, you're going to feel pain. If you think to yourself that this is fixing up something negative that I did, I don't have to have a worse consequence for it, then you feel still in pain, but the pain is much less. The pain is mitigated. And that's why, like I always tell, you know, it's like you don't see it today so much in the modern world, but old religious Jews, everything that happens, they say it should be a kapara. That is a statement that, oh, this should be an atonement for something I did wrong. They were used to saying that because everything that was negative they saw as in some way purposeful. Again, whether or not they understood exactly how, where, and why, because that's a very complicated topic of how each thing works. It's not so simple, but God has a million infinite ways to go and to make this happen. So if you stub your toe, is that for no reason? Well, no, probably it is a reason. I mean, it could be a klutzy, but the greater reason probably is that it is fixing something up. So, you know, be in pain, but don't freak out.
Say kaparat avonot on everything.
That's right, same thing.
So if our sages say that a person, you shouldn't judge a person in his with his money, with his wine, and with his anger.
You should judge a person. That's how you judge a person. You should. That's the way 3 ways.
I thought it said אין שופטים אדם בשעת כעסו, כוסו וכעסו.
No, you mixed it up. No.
Oh.
It's one text is a person is recognized through his kaso, kiso, and koso, through his anger, how he acts when he gets angry, through his money, what he spends his money on, how when he, all of a sudden he gets very cheap, and the third thing is when he drinks a little bit of wine, his cup. That's how we know them. There's another statement is that God doesn't punish somebody, you know, it doesn't judge him. When he gets angry, he may say things that he doesn't really mean. That's totally separate. Sometimes people get angry. They say things and you know, people can say very bad things when they're angry, and then they calm down and they say, oh, I didn't really mean that. But does that mean that the person didn't worship idols? No, he did. They got angry and they screamed and they yelled. But they said, I hate you, and they didn't really mean it. But they caused all the damage by saying it, and they caused all the problems, but it may not be exactly what they meant, because they said it from anger. But that's 2 different things. So you do judge a person, you know a person, how they are when they get angry, how they are when they have some wine, or how they are about their touchy about their finances. That's how you know a person. And then we don't always God doesn't hold a person accountable. Some of the things he might have said that he might not have meant because he was saying them out of anger, but it doesn't exonerate that when he got angry, There's all the problems. It's like worshiping idols, it creates all the negative things. It's just that that statement is not always true. And that's a problem. If you said something to someone in anger, you told someone something in anger, and then you try to tell them, I didn't really mean it, doesn't work too well. But yeah, the person might not have meant it. That's true. They might not have meant it. They might just got angry and said it. But it doesn't really fly so much because the person heard it and they're not going to forget. So let's, as Shmuel said, first take a step, do your techniques, keep it in, don't let yourself go there. Because when you get angry, there's a moment you go there. The moment, and usually it's a righteous indignation. The point when you say, this person really deserves it, right? And that's when you let it go. Usually it's a moment where, you don't know, but then you feel like this is the right thing to do. You've told yourself it's right. They need a piece of my mind. So no, that is not true. That is a lie. You're fooling yourself. So hold it back and then say, wait a minute. There's a plan for everything, and I'm not going to this place. That's not what I'm going to do. All right, guys, have a great night. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you. Good night.
Yeah, thank you, Rabbi. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Rabbi.
Thank
Good night.
Good night.
Laila tov.
Bye.